Hi guys, thank you so much for coming back to Talk of Fame 101. I've missed you all. I hope you have missed me as much as I've missed you. Today I have an amazing artist by the name of E. Jackson, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you all.
My name is Earl Jackson, and I'm originally from Michigan, the Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area. I moved to Atlanta in 1999. And I've been here since then. Went to Eastern Michigan University and Washtenaw Community College, and been pursuing art all of my life.
All right, so I got a chance to look at your website, and you have some really amazing pieces of art, which I expected. And so I see you have some behind you. Did you want to share some with us today?
That's what I'm working on now. It's a sketch I did years ago when I was flipping through my drawing tablets, and I ran across it, and I said, let me go ahead and make this into a painting. It's two girls jumping rope. The rope comes down off the page intentionally. And just to add a different type of scene, a way of seeing, instead of actually seeing the whole rope and the girls jumping in the center. Mm-hmm. That's how I would painted this maybe 30 years ago. But now it's nice to just do something different, different perspective.
So about how long does a typical art piece take you?
It depends. Sometimes it just flows and it's like magic. I call it in the zone. And sometimes it flows so effortlessly, everything works out. And it depends on the size. Sometimes the smaller pieces I can do in a day. The big ones like this, a couple of weeks. Back to the jump rope going off the page to give the viewers, to be more clear of what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. If you can imagine, this is a painting I did years ago. If you can imagine kids sitting at a desk, the first thing we do is we see the kids, how from our perspective, they're sitting at a desk, maybe eye level at you. Mm-hmm. And since they're in the classroom, years ago, I was thinking, how can I do this painting from a different perspective? Because when you say paint someone at a desk, usually the desk is, straight across and the person sitting there. Right. So I painted the kids from looking at the corner of the desk, looking up at the kids with their hands raised in the air. And so instead of looking straight on at the kids, it was more like looking from the floor up, mm-hmm. and their hands reached up toward the ceiling. And it was called Expectations. And you would see the book off the edge of the table. And so it's just a different way of painting something that's pretty common. Right. But how do you make it more creative?
What age, if you can remember, was it that you found or that you discovered that art was going to be your passion?
Well, I knew I had artistic talent in the third grade. Okay. Because instead of following along with the lesson that the third grade teacher was giving at the blackboard, a friend of mine, his name was Jerry. Jerry was doing a pencil drawing. Mm-hmm. And I decided I would pull out my tablet and start copying what he was doing. And he was better than I was, but I finally got it and realized that I had a little talent there. And ever since then, I was in the class drawing instead of paying attention to the classwork. And then when I got to high school, I had a high school teacher, mm-hmm. two or three high school teachers who noticed my talent and gave me extra attention. And it kept fueling the interest and the fire within. And my mother paid for a correspondence class. which I do not recommend. But I did go on to learn quite a bit about art and study under John Lockhart, who was at the University of Michigan and Washtenaw Community College, fellow Detroiter like you. And he's no longer with us. But along the way, I had people to take me under their wings and give me guidance. And he was one of them. Mr. Reeves, my high school art teacher, Ms. Santucci, high school art teacher. And then I joined the National Conference of Artists Michigan chapter in 80, I think it was around 1982. And the Michigan chapter was headquartered in Detroit. And I still have a lot of friends back in Detroit who are still part of the organization. It's one of the most active of the National Conference of Artists, which started here in Atlanta. And I think back in the 40s, if not the 40s, was the 50s. They found the organization because of segregation. The Black artists, while they were in school here at Clark, Atlanta, and Spelman and Morehouse, they couldn't attend the museums when white students were there. So they started out of this segregation. They started their own art organization, and they called it the National Conference of Artists. Oh. And I joined back in around 1982.
Getting some knowledge here. I didn't know this at all.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. Wow. So what would you say has been the most difficult piece that you've painted thus far? If you have any.
Oh, there's a lot of them. I do have one. It's wrapped up. It's boxed up over here, up against the bookshelf. Mm-hmm. That one gave me a very hard time. The piano. Okay. I've got the piano keys. The pianist is right up front, and my wife likes to play the piano. And she came in, and I just drew the keys in. Any kind of way. Mm-hmm. You could tell they were piano keys, but she looked at it and she said, "You have your keys wrong." And she explained to me that there's a certain number, there's a pattern. Mm-hmm. There's 2 white keys and then I think 3 black keys and so forth too, and it repeats. And I had them wrong. And she said, anybody that plays the piano is going to call you out on it. So I had to go back. And I had to wipe out what I'd started and redraw the keys in and get the perspective on them and go back and paint. And I would guess that piano keyboard was the hardest part that I can recall as of right now.
Okay. And what has been your favorite piece that you have painted?
I have too many. I have a large one called Magical Mystical Journey, mm-hmm. but it's of some boys, young boys. They're riding turtles, zebras, and they're playing the talking drum. And they've had these large headdress wrappings on, and they're going from reality into make believe. And it's called Magical Mystical Journey. That sounds good. And there's a lot going on in it. I would have to say maybe that might be my favorite piece.
So what kind of materials do you like to paint with? What kind
This is oil.
Okay.
Oil on canvas.
Okay.
And on my site, I didn't put any mixed media, but I do oil on board, on matte board.
Okay.
And I have to prime both sides with a gesso to secure the matte board so the oil doesn't break down the board itself. Mm-hmm. Doesn't see through. So you prime it. It's like a primer for a wall if you paint a house. It's called gesso. And I prime both sides of the board. I paint the artwork in, the figure. Then I go back with a buttonhole silk twist thread. It's a very heavy thread, and it's very rich in color.
Okay.
And I will sew a design in, and that will take, sometimes that'll take 2 weeks just to sew a design.
Wow.
And it's usually, I usually put a crown.
What is your style of painting? I know we've just discussed it, a few that you've done, like the two young girls jumping rope.
Figurative, representational.
Okay.
What I've been trying to do is something a little more creative, instead of your basic oil painting.
Right.
Sometimes, like the silk thread, I'll include buttons, cowrie shells, sometimes rope to give it a design.
That's awesome. I wish I was creative. I am not. I love and enjoy meeting artistic individuals, because I'm just always in awe of just where your mind goes and how creative you are and bringing things to life, whether it be on paper or canvas or board or whatever the case. And my last question that I have for you was, pre-COVID, had you thought about, or had you actually been implementing, maybe teaching us? Have you thought about being an art teacher?
I used to mentor before I moved down here. I used to mentor students. I would go into the classrooms around, from Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti to Detroit, Inkster, and address classes, elementary, high school, on up to high school. And I used to mentor one-on-one with boys, young boys.
Awesome.
Here, I've gone into some classrooms, but not as much as in Michigan. Before COVID, I've been trying to get a body of work together so I can do a one-person show again. And so my primary focus has been on just getting a new body of work. And so I have not been doing much of anything other than that, aside from work, and I'm retired now. So it's basically just trying to get a new body, a collection of work together so I can have a one-person show.
Then, if you could just leave us with one piece of advice for any young person or anyone of any age, honestly, that may be interested in getting into the world of art, or focusing or tapping in more on their artistic abilities, what is one thing that you would tell them if they asked you, how do you do it? How do you maintain your focus?
Be patient, enjoy it, have fun. Once you realize what you're interested in the field of art, try to find someone that's already developed in that area. Let's say for me, like if I'm someone's a painter, I attach myself to John Lockhart, who was a painter. He was my teacher, and then he became my friend. And so that person, he gave me a lot of direction. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to take classes. Some people are very good artists, and they don't like to be restrained or confined to tradition and so forth. But I would say join art groups, take classes, and if you really want to make a career out of it, get your degree so you can make a living. Usually you'll have to do your art on the side. Very few people come out of school making a living off of their art. Very few people make a living off their art. So make sure you have a job that you can take care of yourself, and then do your art on the side until you can build up enough of a following and reputation where maybe you can walk away from your job, if that's what your goal is. Patient, be patient.
In all things that you do, be patient. So just go ahead really quickly and tell them your website where they can go and purchase some artwork if they would like.
It's ejacksonartist.com. Feel free to contact me at 404-862-7234. 6203. That's my cell number.
Again, thank you so very much for joining us. You all, please be sure to go and check out his website to look over some of his artwork as he continues to upload it there for you. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to give him a call. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you all watching. So what brought you to Atlanta from Detroit? What made you leave Michigan and come to Detroit?
I had met a young lady while I was here doing a show.
Okay.
and we are now husband and wife.
Oh, that is so beautiful. So another nosy question. Do you have any kids?
I have one son and two granddaughters, and they are in Michigan.
Okay. Okay. Do they?
My son is an architect.
As a kid, did you highlight art to him, or did you let him kind of take a flow of his own?
Yes, I didn't force it on him. He was always around it because that's what I was doing.
Right.
And when I was younger, I guess when I was in high school, I wanted to be an architect. At least I thought I wanted to be an architect. But I realized what I really liked was the process and the final product of the design.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And even though I took architectural rendering and drafting classes in high school and a few in college, I was more interested in the fine arts, which I finally realized. Painting, my area of art is painting. I'm a painter. Okay. And so I still love just architecture, but it was the fine arts. But I did not force it on him. I just let him decide what he wanted to be, and it came out being an architect.
Awesome. That is awesome. I know you're very proud.
Yes.
Great.